It was just after sunset in the small mountain town of Crestview, Colorado, when the sky suddenly froze. The wind stopped, the trees stood still, and an eerie silence covered the land like a blanket. It was the kind of quiet that made people uneasy, the kind of quiet before something terrible happens. In this peaceful town, where people lived simple lives and rarely locked their doors, something strange was about to begin. A young girl named Emily Walker, only 8 years old, was playing outside in her backyard with her dog, Max. Her older brother, Noah, was just a few steps away, tossing a football with his friend. Without warning, the air turned cold, and clouds gathered out of nowhere. But they didn't move. They hung still in the sky like painted shadows. Then came the light, blinding, cold blue, and silent. No thunder, no sound, just a powerful flash. Emily turned toward it, her face lit with curiosity and fear. A beam of light shot down from the sky and wrapped around her like a glass bubble. Noah screamed and ran toward her, but the light pulled her up. In a blink, she was gone. Just gone. No sound, no trace. Only her dog's panicked barking remained. People ran from their homes, phones were pulled out, but none could explain what they saw. It wasn't lightning. It wasn't a storm. It was something else, something not from this world. Within an hour, police surrounded the area, but they found no signs of Emily. Just scorched grass, electromagnetic interference on every device, and a strange burning smell in the air. As the town mourned and searched, 1,000 miles away in Flagstaff, Arizona, a man named Dr. Ryan Carter was looking at a strange signal on his seismic monitor. He was a geophysicist with a deep interest in ancient fault lines, working at the Northern Arizona Research Institute. For 2 days, a low-frequency pulse had been showing up on his equipment, repeating every 2 hours a slow, dragging tone followed by 3 sharp pulses. It wasn't natural, and it didn't match any known technology. It was coming from deep beneath Mount Eldon, a long sleeping mountain just north of Flagstaff. He played it again and again. The sound felt intentional. Ryan sent the data to a few colleagues, but no one had answers. Finally, unable to shake the feeling that this was something important, Ryan contacted the U.S. Geological Survey. They dismissed it as a natural anomaly. But that night, Ryan had a dream. In it, he stood at the foot of a mountain that pulsed like a living heart, and a voice said only one word, "Awaken." He woke in sweat and decided to go himself. He assembled a small team, his intern Rachel Cruz, an engineer named Eli Brooks, and a drone operator named Jared Monroe. They packed equipment and made their way to Mount Eldon. The hike was rough, and the weather grew colder with every step, even though it was late summer. Animals were nowhere to be seen. Birds had vanished. When they reached the summit, their instruments went wild. The magnetic field was off the charts. Jared launched a drone to scan the mountain. What they found made their hearts race. Beneath a rock, hidden nearly 800 feet down, was a perfectly shaped dome too perfect to be natural. Ryan stared at the screen. He had studied rock formations his entire life. Nothing like this should exist. He sent a sample drill into the ground, and the machine hit something hard almost immediately. Not rock metal. Thick and old. A sound came up through the ground. Faint but growing. The same tone he had heard on his equipment. Ryan placed his hand on the ground. It was warm. Not from the sun, but from something inside. Rachel leaned closer to the monitor. "It's waking up," she whispered. At that moment, a deep hum filled the air. All their devices shut off. Phones, cameras, everything. Then, without warning, the ground trembled slightly, and a thin crack split across the summit. Not natural. Not slow. Like a warning. Ryan looked at his team. "We need to open it," he said. Eli argued it was too dangerous, but Ryan's gut told him they were standing on something that had been buried for a reason, and that reason was now calling out. They worked fast, cutting into the rock using plasma drills. It took hours, but as night fell, they uncovered a strange metallic surface, covered in symbols none of them could read. Rachel traced one with her glove. The metal pulsed under her touch. Suddenly, part of the surface shifted. A door. Slowly, with a grinding sound like old stone, it opened. Warm air flowed out from within, air that hadn't touched the surface in thousands of years. They pointed their flashlights inside. A corridor stretched ahead, glowing slightly with blue light from crystal-like veins along the walls. At the end, they saw a chamber. In the center was a large pod made of glass and metal, cracked at the edges but still intact. Inside it was a figure, humanoid, tall, wearing armor that looked more like part of his body than something worn. His skin was pale silver, and strange lines glowed across his arms and chest. His eyes were closed, but his hands were clenched like he had been in a battle. A plaque below the pod read a single word etched in English letters, Orion. Rachel gasped. "That's not human, is it?" Ryan stepped forward. "Maybe not now. But once, maybe. Maybe he was something else, something forgotten." As he spoke, the pod let out a long hiss. Mist escaped from the edges. Orion's eyes snapped open, glowing white. The mountain shook again, stronger this time. Outside, clouds began to gather unnaturally fast, circling above Mount Eldon. Jared screamed from outside, "There's something in the sky!" The team rushed out and looked up. Strange lights moved above them, silent, sharp, and fast. Not planes. Not helicopters. They circled the summit like vultures. Then one of the lights turned into a beam and scanned the mountain. The beam hit where the chamber was. The mountain trembled again, harder. Rocks began to fall. Ryan turned to the others. This wasn't an accident. They are watching. They knew he'd wake up. Eli shouted, "Who is he?" But no one had the answer. All they knew was something that had been asleep for centuries was now awake. Something or someone who once protected Earth. And now that he had returned, something in the sky had come to stop him. Emily's disappearance, the strange weather, the signal, it was all connected. And deep inside the chamber, Orion stepped out of his pod and looked at the team. His voice was deep and strange, but his words were clear. "They are here." The sky roared, and darkness fell over the mountain like a warning. The war that was buried was no longer buried. It had just begun. The ground was still shaking as Orion stepped out of the ancient pod inside the mountain. His body looked human, but there was something more, something powerful and unnatural. His skin was smooth like metal, glowing with soft white lines that pulsed in rhythm with the humming mountain beneath him. Ryan, Rachel, Eli, and Jared stared at him, frozen in place. His eyes scanned them one by one, then slowly turned toward the entrance of the chamber where the beam of light had struck just moments ago. "They followed the signal," Orion said calmly, though his voice echoed like a storm in a canyon. Rachel stepped back, whispering, "Who are you?" Orion looked at her, not with anger or fear, but with deep sadness. "I was Earth's shield," he said, "before they made the world forget me." Before anyone could ask more, another tremor shook the mountain. Jared shouted from outside that strange aircraft were approaching fast. Ryan made a quick decision. They needed to get Orion out of the chamber. They climbed out as more strange lights moved through the sky, silent and sharp, circling Mount Eldon like wolves around prey. Down the trail, the team reached their vehicle, and to their shock, Orion walked through the rocks like they were air, his body untouched by gravity. He stopped once to stare at the stars, then said softly, "They are early. The sky is already turning." Once inside the research facility in Flagstaff, Ryan showed Orion the seismic readings and the recordings of the signal. Orion sat silently, his glowing eyes focused on the screens. He then pointed to a specific symbol on the readout, one that matched the pattern on his armor. "This is my heartbeat," he said. "A warning I left behind." Ryan asked the one question they all feared to ask. "What are they?" Orion answered, "They are called the Varn. Long ago, they claimed planets like flames claim dry fields. Earth was the last to resist. I stopped them. But when I was betrayed, the Varn marked this world as unfinished. Now they have returned to complete what they started. Eli leaned forward. Who betrayed you? Orion turned slowly toward the wall and placed his hand on it. A strange symbol lit up under his palm. A holographic map appeared, stars, lines, and battles. Orion explained that thousands of years ago, Earth was one of the last living planets not ruled by the Varn. They came from a dying galaxy, feeding on air, water, and light. They didn't come with armies, they came with silence. Their machines took the skies, drained oceans, and broke planets from the inside out. But a group of ancient beings, protectors, stood against them. Orion was Earth's. He came not from space, but from Earth itself, created by the planet's core as a living defense, shaped by Earth's energy. He defeated the first wave, sealed the sky, and buried the signal deep in the mountain. But during the last battle, someone from Earth, a leader with power, betrayed him. Fearing Orion's strength, the humans turned against him and sealed him beneath the mountain, hoping the war was over. But the war was only sleeping. Rachel's voice trembled as she said, "You're saying someone from here helped them?" Orion nodded. Someone who believed Earth could only survive by serving, not resisting. Meanwhile, news spread across the U.S. Strange weather, more disappearances, and sightings of sky ghosts, silent figures floating just above the ground. Satellite feeds glitched. Power grids flickered. The president declared a state of emergency, but the real threat was still hidden. Orion told them the Varn don't invade with fire. They do it with fear and silence. They first cut off the skies, remove signals, disable communication, confuse the stars. Then, they bring the Warden, a living weapon shaped like a moon. It crushes resistance by turning Earth's own sky against it. Orion asked, "Can you stop them again?" Orion answered, "Only if I become whole. My power is incomplete. My core was separated from me when I was buried. They hid it to make sure I could never rise again. Without it, I am only a shadow of what I was." Eli asked, "Where is your core?" Orion looked down. "I do not know. But someone does." At that moment, an alert flashed on their screens. NORAD had lost contact with 6 military satellites. The skies over Colorado, Utah, and Nevada were now marked no signal. Something was moving in orbit, and no one could see it. Rachel checked local cameras and saw at first a flicker in the sky above Denver. Like a shadow behind the clouds. The Varn were arriving, and fast. Orion stood up. "They are testing your fear. If you run, they will destroy you. If you fight with me, there is a chance." Orion asked, "How do we find your core?" Orion closed his eyes. "There is someone left, an old enemy who watched me fall. He may know." Orion looked at his team. "Then we find him." That night, as they prepared to move out, Rachel noticed something strange. Her skin glowed faintly after touching the map Orion had used. Orion noticed too. "The Earth has touched you," he said. "It remembers. It chooses who can carry the light." Rachel didn't understand, but something inside her began to change. The next morning, they left for Nevada, where the man who betrayed Orion was believed to be hidden. A former military leader, now a powerful corporate CEO named Damon Rook, who owned land near the old Area 51 base. Rumors said he had knowledge of alien life and ancient tech, protected by private armies and hidden under desert bunkers. Orion said he once fought beside Rook before the betrayal. As the team drove west, the skies began to darken unnaturally. Not with clouds but with something moving far above, hidden, watching. In the distance, a shape blocked the stars for just a second. A massive object was in Earth's orbit, circling, waiting. Orion whispered, "The Sky Warden has arrived." And far away, in Crestview, Colorado, where Emily had vanished, a second beam of light appeared, this time over the school playground. Another child was taken. The town's skies turned blood red. The Varn had returned, and Earth's forgotten protector had only just awakened. The drive to Nevada was tense and silent, broken only by the low hum of the sky above. Orion sat still in the back seat, eyes closed, as if listening to something far away. Rachel sat beside him, her fingers glowing faintly from the energy that had touched her back at the research facility. The closer they got to the desert, the heavier the air felt. Roads were empty, gas stations abandoned, as if people had already sensed that something terrible was coming. News stations were going offline one by one. GPS systems glitched. Planes were being rerouted. Satellites above the US were either failing or vanishing. But no official explanations were being given. All the world was seeing were strange light patterns in the sky, silent, cold, and growing in number. In Crestview, Colorado, another child had gone missing, just like Emily. This time, a teacher saw it happen, how the air shimmered, how the beam of light came down like a thread from space, and how the boy was lifted silently into it, disappearing without a trace. The government blamed weather balloons, military drills, and atmospheric anomalies. But Ryan, Rachel, Eli, and Jared knew the truth now. These weren't accidents. These lights were the Varn's hunters. They were here to collect human minds, children first, the most open to energy. Orion explained during the drive, speaking calmly. The Varn do not kill first. They study. They take what is useful and leave the rest behind. They fear chaos. They fear resistance. So they break the soul before the body. He said their drones, called whispers, are made of light and silence. They float in the sky, invisible to radar, and scan for fear. Fear makes you visible to them. It calls them, he said. Rachel asked, why children? Orion answered, children see the truth before it is hidden. They remember the Earth's song. That is why the Varn want them. That is why I must stop them. By the time they reached Damon Rook's compound outside Groom Lake, Nevada, the skies were alive with movement. Jared spotted flickers above them, things that didn't cast shadows, things that moved too smoothly. Eli parked the SUV under an old ridge. The compound was surrounded by electric fences, drones, and guards in black armor. Orion looked at the gates and said, he still builds walls around his fear? Ryan whispered, how do we get in? Orion smiled faintly. We don't ask. We remind. He stepped forward, and with one movement, he raised his hand. The lights in the compound flickered, then died. The gate slid open without a sound. The guards raised weapons, but Orion's voice boomed, I am not your enemy. But I remember who is. The guards froze, as if something ancient inside them woke up. Ryan, Rachel, Eli, and Jared followed Orion through the compound's empty halls, past labs filled with alien tech, sealed vaults, and glowing maps of space. At the center of the facility was a large round chamber with a chair facing a giant screen showing Earth from above. Damon Rook was already waiting. His face was older now, with lines that showed power and fear. I knew you'd return, Rook said. It was just a matter of time. Orion stepped forward, his voice low. You broke your oath. You gave them our skies. Rook didn't deny it. I made a deal to save humanity. They offered peace, knowledge, control. You offered war. I chose survival. Rachel shouted, you call this survival? People are disappearing. Children are vanishing. The skies are turning black. Rook stood up. No one's dying. The Varn are evolving us. They promised a world without war, without hunger. Orion shook his head. They promised a cage. Rook reached for a device beside him, but before he could activate it, Jared shot the table, breaking it apart. We're not here to negotiate, Ryan said. We need the location of Orion's core. Rook paused, then nodded slowly. It's in the Grand Canyon, buried deep in a hidden chamber I found years ago. I used it to power this compound. But once I saw what it was, I locked it away. It scared me. Orion's eyes narrowed. You feared what would protect you? Rook added, the chamber is shielded now, Even the Varn can't find it. But that won't last. They are coming for it. Just then, the alarm in the compound went off. The sky outside turned white. A light descended, melting through the roof like acid. A whisper entered floating, spinning slowly, almost beautiful in its silence. Its body shimmered like liquid glass, and in its center was a single eye. It didn't attack. It scanned. Rook stepped back in fear. It found us. Orion moved fast. His body lit up with white energy, and he launched himself toward the whisper. The two forces collided in a flash of light that shook the compound. The others ran for cover. Jared fired his weapon, but the shots passed through the whisper like air. Rachel shouted, "It's not solid." Orion's energy finally pierced it. With a cry that sounded like a storm dying, the whisper broke apart and vanished in smoke. But the damage was done. The Varn now knew where the core was. "We need to move," Ryan said. "Now." Rook handed them a key drive with the exact coordinates. "That's all I can give you. They'll come for me now." Orion stared at him for a long moment. "You still have a choice. When the final sky burns, you decide who you are." With that, the team left, racing against time toward the Grand Canyon. As they drove through the dark desert roads, the sky above cracked with flashes of silent light. More whispers were coming. Orion warned them, if they reach the core first, they will erase it. And if they erase the core, I become nothing. And Earth follows. Rachel's hand glowed brighter now. She was changing. The Earth was responding to her. Orion looked at her with calm eyes. "You are not just a watcher anymore. You are part of this now." Rachel didn't understand it yet, but deep inside, something ancient had been lit. A memory not hers. A feeling of power she couldn't control. Far behind them, lights filled the night sky. In cities across the U.S. Dallas, Seattle, Boston, people looked up and saw shapes moving, whispering winds, lights that blinked in patterns. Fear was rising. And as Orion had warned, fear made people visible. The hunt had begun. The Varn were not just watching now. They were searching, learning, feeding. And the only thing standing between Earth and total silence was a forgotten protector, and a girl who had just begun to awaken. The road to the Grand Canyon was dark and quiet, but not peaceful. It was the kind of quiet that felt like something was hiding just beyond the light. Orion sat still in the back of the SUV, his silver skin dim, his energy low. The battle with the whisper inside Rook's compound had weakened him more than he let on. Rachel kept looking at him through the rear-view mirror, watching the glow in his veins flicker. Her own hands were still faintly glowing, the strange connection between her and the Earth growing stronger with every mile. Ryan drove fast, guided by the coordinates Rook had given them, while Eli and Jared kept watch on the skies above. Distant flashes of silent lightning rolled across the stars, signs that the whispers were still moving. No police sirens, no helicopters, no jets in the air anymore. Everything had gone quiet. As they neared the entrance to a hidden trail off the main highway, a loud cracking sound shook the ground. Dust lifted from the desert floor, and a low roar echoed through the canyon walls. They stopped the SUV and got out. Rachel touched the ground. It was warm, not from the sun, but from something moving underneath. Orion stepped forward, his voice soft but firm. "The Earth feels the danger. It knows the core must awaken." They began hiking down the trail that led into the canyon, deeper than any tourist path. The trail had been hidden behind a rock slide, one that Orion said had been placed there by the betrayer long ago to seal off the chamber. As they climbed deeper, strange carvings appeared on the canyon walls, symbols that glowed faintly as Orion passed. They looked like stars falling into water, circles within circles. "This was the last defense," he said. "The Earth tried to hide me, even when people forgot." After hours of hiking, they reached a narrow crack in the stone. Behind it was a hidden tunnel, unnatural in shape. Inside, the air felt heavy, like it hadn't been touched in centuries. As they moved through the tunnel, The walls began to glow faintly. Then they reached a massive circular chamber carved into the heart of the canyon. In the center floated a glowing orb the size of a human, wrapped in metal rings and energy lines. The core. Orion fell to his knees. It still lives. But as he reached for it, alarms blared. Lights flickered. And from the shadows behind them, men in black armor stepped out heavily armed, faces hidden. Leading them was a woman in a dark military coat, her voice sharp and cold. "Step away from the artifact." Ryan raised his hands. "Who are you?" The woman replied, "General Sloan, U.S. Advanced Threat Division. You are trespassing on a secured site." Eli stepped forward. "He's not a threat. He's the only reason we're still alive." Sloan looked at Orion. "We've been watching this being since he surfaced. The government knew something was down here. We found the chamber years ago, but we couldn't unlock it." When Orion woke, the core responded. "That's why we came." Rachel said, "The sky is falling apart, and you're still playing secret games." Sloan replied coldly, "We don't take orders from unknown entities." Orion stood slowly, his eyes glowing once more. "I am not unknown. I am Earth's last protector. And your pride is killing your planet." But Sloan wasn't listening. She ordered her soldiers to take the core. They moved forward, attaching metal clamps to it. The chamber groaned. The glow in the orb began to flicker. Orion shouted, "Stop! It must not be moved. It must merge with me or be lost forever." But the soldiers ignored him. That's when it happened. A thin beam of blue light pierced through the canyon ceiling. A whisper dropped into the chamber like a spider from the sky. In seconds, 3 soldiers were gone, vanished into white dust. Panic broke out. Gunfire echoed, but the bullets did nothing. The whisper moved fast, targeting the core. Orion threw himself in front of it, energy exploding from his hands. The impact blasted the whisper back, but more were coming. From above, a swarm of lights filled the sky. Whispers, dozens of them. General Sloan called for extraction, but there was no signal. No one responded. Her command was already cut off. Ryan shouted, "You brought them here. Your fear lit the signal." Rachel ran to the core, her hands glowing brighter than ever. Orion reached for her. "Rachel, listen to me. You are part of this now. The Earth has chosen you. Help me connect." She placed her hands on the core, and a surge of light filled the chamber. Orion stepped forward and pressed his hand beside hers. A deep hum began. The core spun faster. Rings of energy floated into Orion's chest. His body began to heal, grow brighter. But as this happened, a massive explosion rocked the canyon. A piece of the ceiling collapsed. A new shape emerged from the sky, not a whisper, but something larger. A dark creature with wings like smoke and a body like stone. Orion's voice trembled for the first time. The Sky Warden. The creature was a weapon alive. Ancient, and designed to crush planetary resistance. It hovered above the canyon, its wings spreading across the sky like night itself. All light faded. Wind died. A loud, pulsing beat shook the world. The Sky Warden began its work draining the oxygen from the air, making it harder to breathe. Plants turned brown. Birds fell. People across Phoenix, Salt Lake City, and Los Angeles looked up to see the sky turn black. Back in the chamber, the core was fully absorbed into Orion. His eyes turned solid white. His voice echoed like thunder. "I am whole again." He lifted off the ground. "And I will not let the earth fall." He flew upward, crashing through the rock like paper. The Sky Warden saw him and turned its massive head. The battle began in the sky, white fire against black storm. The team ran from the collapsing chamber as more whispers attacked. Sloan, realizing her mistake, helped Jared carry an injured soldier out. Rachel turned back one last time and saw the core's light now inside Orion, fighting to keep the sky from falling. But the Sky Warden was powerful, older than war itself. Every time Orion struck, it regenerated. The sky was shaking. Earth was trembling. Rachel whispered, "We're too late." But Orion's voice came through the storm, "Not if you remember me." In that moment, across the country, people began to dream. They saw flashes of Orion from ancient times standing over mountains, saving villages, fighting in the stars. The earth was remembering him. And in doing so, it gave him strength. The battle was not over. But the earth was no longer silent. And neither was its protector. The sky above the Grand Canyon was burning with silent war, white streaks of Orion's power clashing with the cold black wings of the Sky Warden. From the ground, it looked like the stars were being pulled apart. Rachel, Ryan, Eli, Jared, and even General Sloan watched in awe and fear as light and shadow twisted through the night sky. Orion moved like a storm, faster than human eyes could follow, but the Sky Warden was bigger, stronger, and ancient. Every blast Orion landed only slowed it down. It never truly broke. And while they fought above, more whispers rained down across the western United States, taking over communication towers, disabling military bases, draining energy grids. In the cities, people could no longer use phones or electricity. The skies turned gray, and breathing became harder as the warden continued to feed. In a hospital in Phoenix, patients began to collapse. In Salt Lake City, the air thinned. In San Francisco, the sun did not rise. Orion, still powered by the core, was holding the warden back, but not winning. "He's running out of time," Rachel whispered as she watched the sky flicker. Ryan looked at her and said, "He said the core made him whole, but what if that wasn't the only core?" Rachel turned slowly. "You mean there could be more?" Eli jumped in. "If Earth created Orion to protect itself, maybe it left backup energy sources. Like a heart with more than one beat." Jared added, "And if we find it, maybe it could change the fight." General Sloan, still recovering from what she had witnessed, stepped forward and said something no one expected. "I know where to look." The group stared at her in silence. "A few years ago," she said, "before this began, we intercepted a deep energy reading from Yellowstone National Park. We thought it was geothermal pressure, but there was something under it. A pulse. Rhythmic, old. And unlike anything we had seen before. We buried the data. Thought it was just the Earth shifting. Now I think we were wrong." Orion, high above, suddenly slammed into the ground near them, carving a crater through the canyon walls. He stood slowly, his body dimmer than before. The Sky Warden hovered above, watching with its hollow eyes. Orion turned toward the team, and said, "There is another core. The Earth remembers." Rachel stepped toward him. "Yellowstone." Orion's eyes flashed. "Yes. The second core. Hidden deeper. Guarded by what is left of the Earth's first fire. But if we go there, it will not be quiet. The Varn will follow." Ryan nodded. "Then we don't give them time to catch up." With Sloan's help, they secured a military aircraft hidden in a nearby airbase. As they flew toward Yellowstone, the land below looked broken. Forests were turning pale, lakes were drying, and the sky above looked bruised. The Earth was bleeding slowly under the Warden's control. As they approached Yellowstone, the plane's systems began to fail, radios cut out, engines stuttered. Jared struggled to land them safely, and they touched down hard near an old service road. Smoke rose from the wings, but they were alive. From here, they hiked toward the old geothermal fields, now silent. No tourists, no animals, not even wind. Steam vents had stopped. Geysers were dry. The Earth here had gone still. Orion led them to a place off the maps, an old stone formation shaped like a circle, half buried in moss. "This was the first door," he said. Together, they moved the stones, revealing a spiral tunnel that went deep underground. Inside, the walls glowed faintly, just like the chamber in the Grand Canyon. Rachel felt the energy pulse again inside her fingers. She was connected to this place. She didn't know how or why, but she could feel the core calling her. As they moved deeper, heat increased. Not deadly, but intense. Then they reached a wide chamber. At the center of it was something different from the first core. This one wasn't floating. It was buried in stone, covered in vines, burning with slow red light. The second core. It pulsed slowly, like a sleeping heartbeat. But something was wrong. Around it stood figures stone-like, unmoving, shaped like tall humans with hollow eyes. They are the Earth Guard, Orion whispered. Created to protect this core. But if we touch it without proving we are chosen, they will wake. Rachel stepped forward. The figures turned their heads slightly, then froze again. Orion looked at her. You must speak the Earth's name. Not in words, but in memory. Rachel closed her eyes. She thought of Crestview. Of the children taken. Of the pain. Of the first light. Of the wind before the whispers came. Of Orion's sacrifice. And then she whispered, we remember? The Earth Guard stepped back. The vines opened slowly. The core pulsed brighter. Orion stepped forward and placed both hands on it. The core shattered into light and entered him. His body exploded with power, glowing not just white, but now with fire and earth light. His voice became many voices. I am the Earth remembered. But above, the Varn had found them. The Sky Warden appeared in the clouds above Yellowstone, bringing with it the silence again. The air turned thin. Trees cracked. The sky turned to ash. But this time, Orion rose from the ground with both cores burning inside him. He looked at the Warden and said, you came to erase me. But now the Earth writes back. He launched into the sky, his light burning across the clouds. The second battle began this time, not just to survive, but to end it. From the ground, Rachel could feel the energy vibrating through the planet itself. The Earth was fighting back. But far away, deep underground in a hidden place, a figure watched from a black screen. It was Damon Rook. He had survived. And beside him stood something stranger, a small shard of the Varn's crystal tech, pulsing with blue light. Rook smiled and whispered, the Sky Warden was only the beginning. Above Yellowstone, the battle burned like a second sun. But down below, a darker plan had already begun. The sky above Yellowstone burned with fire and thunder as Orion clashed again with the Sky Warden, now stronger than before, his body glowing with the power of both cores. Below, Rachel, Ryan, Eli, Jared, and General Sloan took shelter in the ancient cavern, still shaken by what they had seen. The second core had awakened something ancient inside Orion, something not just strong but connected to the Earth's memory, its pain, its hope, and its rage. Rachel sat against the wall, still feeling the echo of the core through her fingertips, while Ryan stood watched near the entrance with Jared. Eli was trying to scan Orion's energy readings on the few working devices they had left, but signals kept breaking. Nothing worked properly anymore. The sky had become poisoned to technology. It's like the world's nervous system is breaking, Eli whispered. Sloan checked her rifle and kept her eyes on the cave opening. And it's about to get worse, she said. None of them knew that just a few miles away, hidden inside an abandoned Cold War-era military facility beneath the Titans, Damon Rook was still alive. His face had changed, part human, part something else. His right eye no longer blinked, glowing faint blue like the Varn tech he kept beside him. The crystal shard pulsed with every strike Orion made against the Warden. It was feeding him data, learning, adapting. Rook paced slowly through the metal hallways of the bunker, speaking to someone through a scrambled voice link. Orion was never Earth's only secret, he said. We found something else in the ice years ago. They told me to bury it. But I didn't. I fed it. The voice replied, sharp and metallic, continue. Rook smirked. The Sky Warden is a soldier. But the mind is coming next. Back in Yellowstone, the group moved through the tunnels toward an emergency exit, following Rachel, who felt drawn to the surface again. But as they reached the narrow path up, they noticed something strange. Sloane was missing. She was just behind us, Jared said. They called out, searched around the split tunnel, but she was gone. Suddenly, Rachel gasped and grabbed her head. She's not gone. She's here. But she's different now. Ryan pulled his flashlight and noticed footprints, human ones, but then followed by deeper, heavier ones. She's not alone. At that moment, a voice echoed through the cave. It was Sloane, but it wasn't. Her tone was colder, too perfect. I always told you not to trust anyone. Even me. The walls began to shake as part of the tunnel collapsed behind them. Dust filled the air. Out from the shadows stepped Sloane, but her eyes glowed faint blue, like the whispers. Her veins pulsed with light. She raised her weapon but didn't fire. I volunteered, she said. The earth had its protector. Now the sky has one of its own. Ryan raised his hands. Sloane, you fought beside us. You helped Orion. Why? Sloane's voice cracked a little. Because we never stood a chance. The warden showed me what's coming. This isn't invasion. It's correction. Earth is a broken code and the Varn are the clean system. I chose the winning side. Before she could fire, Orion appeared between them and her in a burst of white fire, blocking her shot. You were given choice, he said, his voice deep with sorrow. You chose silence. Sloane screamed and raised a device in her hand. It looked like a detonator, but it glowed the same blue as the Varn shard Rook had used. She pressed it. Instantly, the air around Orion cracked. He stumbled back, his body flickering. EMP pulse, Varn designed, she said. You're not untouchable anymore? As Orion weakened, the cave shook again, and from above, the Sky Warden's cry tore through the earth like a siren. Sloane disappeared into a narrow escape tunnel as debris fell behind her, and the rest of the group barely escaped out the emergency hatch. They reached the surface just in time to see Orion fall from the sky again, his power drained. The Warden hovered above him, larger now, fed by something new. He's feeding from her betrayal, Rachel said, her voice shaking. He's using it. Orion looked up from the ground and whispered, the mind is near? Suddenly, every screen, every broken device lit up, even the shattered one in Eli's pack. A single symbol blinked across them all, a triangle inside a circle, pulsing. That's not the Warden, Orion said. That's the one who controls it. And just as he said that, deep below, in the hidden lab where Damon Rook stood, the Varn crystal pulsed one final time and a figure stepped from a sealed door, covered in armor made of light and shadow, its face smooth like glass, its voice not male or female. I am the architect. The mind. The cleaner. Rook knelt. The earth is ready for correction. The mind replied, then we begin. Back in Yellowstone, the ground cracked open near Old Faithful. A new tower began to rise, mechanical, alien, and covered in moving symbols. He's building something, Ryan said. A tower, a signal. Orion's voice was weak. It's the beacon. If he lights it, others will come. And Earth will be gone before it even cries out. Rachel stepped forward. Then we stop it. With or without Orion. The group looked at one another. Broken. Betrayed. But still standing. The Earth's last chance wasn't strength, it was the memory of what it had survived. And the courage to rise again. The sky above Wyoming had changed. It no longer looked like the sky people had always known. Strange clouds, shaped like spirals, hovered unnaturally. At the center of Yellowstone, where Old Faithful once roared with life, now stood the alien tower, cold, black, and humming like it was alive. It had risen almost overnight, made from no known material. It reached high, cutting through the clouds, drawing power from the air and earth itself. Strange symbols flowed across its surface like living ink. Rachel, Ryan, Eli, Jared, and Orion stood at the edge of the basin, watching the tower from behind a ridge. Orion was weak, his glow dim, flickering like a dying light bulb. The betrayal by Sloane and the activation of the Varn pulse had drained much of his strength. Still, he stood. He had to. The mind, the mysterious being who called itself the Architect, was now active. And the tower was its first move. What happens if the tower finishes its signal? Rachel asked, staring at the rising waves of blue light pulsing every few seconds from the tower's tip. They arrive, Orion said. The cleaners. Once the beacon is complete, it calls them. Earth will not survive their judgment. Ryan loaded his weapon, even though he knew it wouldn't do much. Then we blow it up. Simple. But Eli shook his head. It's not that simple. The tower is protected by energy we've never seen. Every drone I sent, every reading I got, none of it makes sense. It's like the tower bends the rules of physics. Like it rewrites space around it. Jared stepped forward, pointing to the growing field of silence around the tower. There's a no-tech zone spreading out. Radios don't work. Guns fail. Even light behaves strangely. We go in blind. But Rachel didn't flinch. Then we go in with something older. Something the tower wasn't built to fight. She looked at Orion. You said the Earth gave you power. Can it give us more? Orion looked down at his hands, then at the mountain behind them. Yes. But not from me. There are others. Silent ones. Forgotten. Buried beneath this land before your kind even learned to speak. I was not the only protector Earth made. That night, under the cover of strange darkness, the group split. Rachel, Orion, and Eli went west into the Shoshone forest to find the place Orion called the Mouth of Memory. Ryan and Jared stayed behind to study the tower and find any way to slow its signal. The land around the tower twisted and warped. Trees bent away from it. Birds fell silent. Strange whispers filled the wind, voices speaking in languages no one could recognize. Meanwhile, deep underground, Sloane stood beside the Architect as the tower grew. She looked human, but something had changed in her skin too pale, her breath slow like a machine. The mind spoke to her not with sound, but with thought. You have done well. The tower is nearly complete. Soon the judgment begins. But even in her changed mind, something inside her cracked. A memory. A sound. A child's voice, her nephew's. She shook her head but said nothing. Back in the forest, Rachel and Orion found the Mouth of Memory, a deep crack in the land, glowing faint green, covered in ancient stone carved with strange symbols. Orion placed his hand on the stone and spoke in a voice not his own. The ground opened. Inside, 3 sarcophagi stood. Inside each shapes. Not human, not machine. Creatures of stone and light. Orion fell to his knees. They are old. Stronger than I ever was. But they sleep for a reason. Rachel stepped forward. Then we wake them. We have no other choice. Eli began scanning, adjusting equipment, trying to find a way to trigger the awakening without destroying everything. Suddenly, the symbols on the stone began to glow brighter. One of the creatures moved. Then another. Their eyes opened, glowing white. They looked at Orion, then at Rachel. And then they spoke not aloud, but into their minds. You carry the Earth's cry. Why have you come? Rachel spoke bravely. The sky has turned. The Architect builds the beacon. If we do not stop it, everything dies. The silent ones looked at each other. Then the tallest stepped forward. Then the Earth must speak louder. It placed its hand on Rachel's shoulder. Light flowed into her, filling her mind with visions, memories of Earth, storms, earthquakes, ancient wars no one remembered. The pain. The love. The hope. She collapsed, overwhelmed, but when she rose, her eyes glowed faint green. I understand now, she whispered. Back at the tower, Ryan and Jared were surrounded. Sloane's soldiers, no longer fully human, had found them. Their weapons failed. Jared was caught. Ryan ran into the silence zone, knowing it was a trap, but had no choice. Suddenly, the sky above the tower cracked. A second light appeared, not blue, but gold. A beam fell from the clouds and struck the base of the tower. It didn't destroy it, but it paused the signal. For the first time, the pulse stopped. Far away, Orion looked up. "She did it," he said. "She connected." Rachel stood with the three silent ones behind her. She wasn't the same anymore. The earth had marked her. "We don't need to destroy the tower," she said. "We need to unbind the signal. Change the message. Send Earth's memory instead of surrender." The final battle wasn't going to be with weapons but with will, memory, and the truth of what Earth was. The group began moving back toward the tower. The architect felt it. Deep inside the beacon's core, it looked up. "They have awakened the old voice," it said. "Then we begin the purge early." The tower began to glow red. The final signal was close. The cleaners were almost here. Earth had one last hour to speak. The tower glowed blood red, brighter than anything in the sky, its light spreading across Wyoming like a sunrise of doom. The clouds above it swirled faster, opening into a perfect black circle, a void not of storm but of space itself. Far beyond Earth, something was coming, something massive, mechanical, and ancient. The cleaners. Their judgment had been triggered. Earth had 1 hour before the tower sent its final message, a signal calling them to erase what they saw as a broken world. Rachel stood with the silent ones on a nearby ridge, watching the sky twist open. Her eyes glowed green, her voice calm but firm. "We don't stop them with violence," she said. "We stop them with truth." Orion knelt beside her, weakened but still holding on. "The tower listens now. Through you. But the architect knows this. It will try to overwrite your signal." Down below, the others prepared for the impossible. Eli worked with ancient tech and modern tools, trying to keep the power lines open long enough for Rachel's mind to link with the beacon's core. Jared and Ryan guarded the ridge's entrance, holding off Sloane's changed soldiers with traps and old weapons that still worked. Sloane herself stood at the base of the tower, pale, silent, her face cold. But something inside her still remembered. Her fingers shook as the architect's voice echoed in her head, pushing her toward full obedience. But she resisted. Barely. Inside the tower, deep beneath the surface, a hidden chamber opened, a room not made by humans. Strange symbols floated in the air, not drawn, but alive. This was the core chamber. And Rachel had to enter it. The silent ones formed a circle around her. "You will walk alone," they said in one voice. "The tower will challenge you. It will show you fear. Doubt. It will try to erase your memory. But you must speak the Earth's truth." She nodded and stepped forward. As she entered the tower, everything went silent. Not just quiet silent. No breath. No heartbeat. No thought. Time stopped. Then came the first vision. Fire. Cities burning. Wars. Screaming children. Floods. The tower showed her what humanity had done. "You are not worth saving," the architect's voice boomed. "This world is diseased." But Rachel didn't break. "Earth is more than our mistakes," she whispered. "It remembers love. Hope. Beauty." The next vision showed her her own death alone, forgotten, her sacrifice wasted. "No one will remember you," the architect hissed. But she smiled. "It doesn't matter. Earth remembers." She stepped deeper into the chamber, where the core floated, spinning, glowing, pulsing. She reached out her hand, and the moment her fingers touched it, everything exploded in light. Across the globe, the ground shook. Oceans paused. Animals looked up at the sky. The tower froze. The signal faltered. Sloane fell to her knees, clutching her head as the architect screamed inside her mind. But it was too late. Rachel's mind had entered the beacon's path. And she spoke not with words, but with memory. She showed Earth as it truly was. The laughter of a child. The first rain on dry land. A mother's touch. A flower blooming in a broken street. The forgiveness of an enemy. The healing of a forest. She gave the signal, not just data but soul. And far above, on the edge of the stars, the cleaners received the message. They paused. Watched. And for the first time in 1,000 years they did not attack. They turned. The black hole above Wyoming closed. The tower dimmed. And then it shattered, breaking into dust, which floated away like ash in the wind. Rachel collapsed, her body lifeless, but her face calm. Sloane crawled to her, weeping. "She saved us," she whispered. Orion knelt beside Rachel's body. "No," he said softly. "She became something more. She became Earth's new voice." Days passed. Then weeks. The silent ones returned to their slumber. The world changed. People began to feel the earth again, to listen. Not just to power or greed but to the deep rhythm that connects all life. Jared and Ryan built a memorial near the tower's ruins. Eli shared the story with the world. And Sloane disappeared, walking into the forests alone, searching for forgiveness. In the end, it wasn't power or war that saved Earth. It was memory. It was one human soul, strong enough to carry the truth of an entire world and brave enough to speak it. Somewhere deep in the soil, a new signal started. Not a warning. Not a call for help. But a message to the stars: we remember. We grow. We endure.